Good evening and welcome to Healing Conversations with me, Ntabise Ngwepe. I'm thrilled about this Tuesday because the woman who will be speaking to us today, phenomenal. That's the only word that I can get in terms of describing her. She's a transformational speaker. She is an author. She's a television producer and broadcaster. Her name is Gail Motloung. I met this woman when I released my first book, and our paths just crossed and we became sisters. What I didn't know at the time was her struggle with infertility. Her story is one that resonates to many women. The inability to conceive, the decision to say, hang on, I'm not ready to have a child yet. Society's perception, how does that affect our mental health, and how we as women can be the ones to bring most part of the pain that our fellow sisters go through. She's here to share her story with us. Sis Gail, it's always a pleasure being in your company.
It's an honor to be here.
From one broadcaster to another. It's an honor sitting, in the presence of someone of your caliber.
Wow.
An award recipient, an award nominee. The Most Distinguished Women in Africa Award. These are some of your accolades. Male and Guardian 200 Young South African. It's for 2023.
Yes.
Women of Stature 2022. The Esther Women Award. I can go on and on and on. Yeah. Does it feel like I'm speaking about you?
No. Sometimes it's like, okay, wow, when did that happen? Yeah. Yeah, but all I can say is that I see the grace of God, yes. And I can acknowledge that there is a God. Yeah, when I look at my life and the things that God has done, you can never tell me that there's no God.
And it speaks of how recognized your work is. Not only within South Africa, not only within the SADC region, but internationally as well.
True.
Coming to this journey, has it always been your dream?
Sure. For me, I've always been somebody who is passionate, about, more, I would say, ambitious and passionate about working with people. And I didn't know that how will all that shape up. I just told myself that I just want to be, used by God, and my journey to be one that God will be glorified through. So for me, I didn't know that it would, turn out like this. And I'm so grateful because in the journey, I also get to learn the importance of servant leadership, which is for me, I believe, the highest and the ultimate leadership. According to me, for me, that is, so I'm learning a lot, and, the impact it does not only to the people you are serving, but even to you, because while you are doing that, there are people who are looking and they're like, this person is it's in the right track and we want to work with this person. Yes. We recognize the work. When you get a nomination email to say you've been nominated, you ask yourself, okay, who did that? Yeah. That's when I can tell, there are people who are seeing and they're inspired by the work that I'm doing.
But it's also a journey of, inspiring others.
True.
Because in as much as you're doing the work, but someone is also saying, I want to become like her.
Yeah.
Someone is also saying her testimony helps me.
True.
And that has been the story of your books. You've authored quite a number of books.
Yes.
And the common thread amongst them, helping someone.
Yes. Yeah, with the books, I remember my very first book, it was when I was in matric. I wrote my first motivational book. It was titled Believe You Can. What inspired that book was, during that year, there was a lot of things happening and it affected us as matriculants. There was a lot of strikes and it affected our academic year. And we had to write the final exam. There was no way they'll postpone. And I remember many of us were really, really downcasted. We really felt defeated. And because I always enjoyed motivating and empowering other people and all. The idea came to write a book. So I wrote a short booklet, motivational booklet, and I just gave it to my classmates and to all the matriculants at school. And from there, people wanted the book, and that is when I was like, okay, so I can actually write,
There's something
There's
there.
something there, So that's when other books, were inspired through that journey. Yeah.
Are you where you've always aspired to be?
I would say it's a journey. Not yet, but I believe.
But your face is on TV. you are on Soweto TV. You are on Mpuma TV. God knows only where I'll see you next.
Okay, maybe for somebody they see it as that, and not that I don't recognize, like I said, the grace of God, but I feel like there's more.
Yes.
I always read and listened to Miles Monroe's videos and books, and he said something. He spoke about how the cemetery is the richest place in the world. Books that were never written, songs that were never sang,
Dreams that were never fulfilled.
exactly. So he said, it's not about dying when you are old, but it's about dying empty.
Yeah.
So for me, my focus is on that. It's not even about sekeli mona limo, but am I empty? If I was to leave this world today, did I empty myself and leave everything, leave marks leave clues for others to take from there and build from my shoulders? Yeah. So that has been for me. That is how I look at it. Yes.
Someone said about leadership, how we gauge the correct leadership, it's by the people that the leader raises. And I suppose that is what led to you founding the Girls Foundation that you lead.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, so in 2016, the idea came to mentor young girls, because I would receive, text from young girls. Hi, Gail, I have a challenge. Can I talk to you and all? And I remember there was a time, it took me back to when I was in high school. I used to have mentors. Hence, I believe so much in the power of mentorship. I used to have a lady in high school that I used to talk to. And I remember there were times where things would be difficult academically, even at home. And just talking to her, she would encourage me. And she is also a Christian, so we could relate a lot, Nalien. And I saw the impact it made in my life, and I said, imagine if I never had somebody to talk to during that time. Where would I be? I would probably I would have probably gotten easily influenced by friends or peers, to do things. But she was always, calling me into order. And I appreciate that a lot. And that's when I was like, you know what? There's a reason why these girls keep coming to me. So there's something, that they see. And that's when the idea came. In 2017, that's when I registered the foundation, and I started a mentorship group where we would meet every week and we would talk about the challenges that they face. We do activities. And, I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. That's why I always tell people, when you start something, when you have a vision, don't be scared to start. Start where you are,
And don't wait to have everything in place.
Exactly. Because that's how dreams die. They die because you are sitting waiting for something you don't even know.
Yes. And I suppose that your latest book, Self-Developmental Guide, it's aimed at, leading them towards a reformative life.
Yes.
Not towards a life that, one needs to wait for things to go wrong.
Exactly.
Because I think a lot of the time we don't say anything until things have gone wrong.
Yes.
And the conversation between a woman and a girl child is something that doesn't quite happen.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't. And if even with the book, when I wrote this book, I would get, even now from older people, not even young people, to say, yo, Gail, can we please have a session? I have ideas, about my life, but I don't know when to execute them or how to execute them. And for me, I saw a gap. And I'm like, there are many people who have the problem. I have an idea, but I don't know how to
How
start.
to start, yeah.
You know, and when that's why the book, it's called a guide. It's practical. You literally write inside. I've made short activities so that you also have a time of introspection and see where you are at, how you think about certain things, so that you are able to say, okay, maybe there's some changes I need to do regarding how I think and how I do things.
Someone can say, you know what, looking at you on TV, looking at you in your show, bookshelf,
Yeah.
and looking at you on Healing Conversations, you seem to have it all so together. But I want to take you back to a conversation I had with you. I think it was almost 2 years back. And you said to me, Sister Ntabiseng, I don't see myself getting married.
Yeah.
Sister Ntabiseng, and I said, but why?
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess who's married now? And your beautiful son as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing how God can just flip things around, isn't it? Your journey to marriage and infertility, traumatic,
Yeah.
hectic experiences, and name calling.
Sure. Yes.
You got married and you sort of like, wanted to have a child, but it just didn't happen for you.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Sure. Yeah, my sigh is deep.
Yeah, it is.
It thinking about it, I become emotional because I cannot begin to count the number of women who would inbox me on Facebook. I remember when after my child was born, I posted about my journey. And, they were so happy because nobody knew I was expecting. I had hidden it until my child was born, And for me, that was me glorifying God to say He has done it.
Yes.
But if you were to take me back, or rather we rewind time and you tell me that time you are going to have a child, I was going to look at you in love and be like, stop. The way Sarah did to Abraham, I would have done that. I remember, as a woman being married, no woman wishes not to have a child unless she decides, I don't want to have a child, and you agree with your partner or your spouse rather. I was at a place where, in the beginning, everything was okay. No, we'll have a child when we are ready. Until there was a time, I was told that I'm cheap and I'm barren. And I'm like, okay, we were not trying for a baby as yet. This is an expectation. Why are you not? People will ask, when are you having a child? When are you getting married? When you are married, when are you having a child?
Yes.
When you have a child, when is the second one?
Yes.
Those,
society's expectations.
Exactly. And those words stuck with me. It was so painful to hear somebody that you respect to say that to you, And it was very disappointing. And it left a mark in me to say, okay. And I remember I was not even preventing at that time. I was not preventing. I remember I was avoiding it because I would get sick, So it happened that, I would use my cycle rather, they would tell you after your period, the first 7 days, that's how, it would work for us. Then we started to try for a baby. I think that was on our 3rd year. We, by the way, I was married for 5 years. And on our 3rd year, we started trying. Nothing was happening. And it used to eat me up. Those words that were planted. It used to eat me up a lot. And I was sitting there, Kirimudimo Kante, what's happening. Gary, let me not pressure myself. You'll be told that don't stress a lot about it. If you stress, you're making it difficult. Pregnancy doesn't want a person who's stressed or things like that, And I left it like that as it was. To cut the long story short, it happened that, things didn't work out in my marriage. A lot of things happened that, it just didn't work out. It was not going to work out. And we separated to divorce. I I remember during the separation, I received an email where I was told there were so many insults. I remember I said, this email, I'm not even going to delete it. I'm going to put it, this is going to be a reminder just because of these words. In that email, with all those insults that were there was one, even they were numbered,
point form.
point form. And, this particular point said you couldn't even conceive, which is something a wife should do for her husband. I was, that thing broke me.
Yeah.
That thing hurt me. And I was like, who has the nerve to say this?
To another woman.
And I kept quiet and I said, okay, you know what, God? Yes.
Where were these emails from? Are you comfortable enough to share?
I don't know if I should share that.
No, random people in the streets, family.
No. Family, not, I wouldn't say family, but it was influenced by family at that time. It was coming from people who were told things about me.
So these are people you know?
People I know, yes.
And people who are in a position to be compassionate and supportive to you?
I wouldn't even say I was expecting them to be compassionate because you don't know me. But to have the nerve to say something to someone that only God has control over. I mean, when you talk about a child, that's why people say a child is a blessing from God. Yes. You cannot determine whether a person will have a child or what. Even if a person is declared by a doctor that you can't conceive, Mudimu can step in and
God
say,
can still do it.
Yes. Yeah. That is where the scripture that says, whose report are you going to believe comes in.
Yes.
So now I received this email, from the person who I believe was told these things by my ex, and it was as if these people were sitting, literally typing this together, if I may put it that way, because it was as if it's him, but when you know a person, how they write, you're like, no, this was not, this is not the person writing, but this person told these people things, and it was just a crazy moment there. And I mean, I was like, okay, I could pick up that, and I could pick up it's a woman who read. I mean, I work with writing. I know, when a woman writes a certain way, a man, you can hear the sound. And I knew that my ex wouldn't just write and then say shame. So already you are giving it away, But then I said, I'm going to keep it as it is. And I went to God. I remember I sat and I said, God, I had already accepted that I can't have kids and it was okay. If that is your will, I had accepted it because I told myself, I don't want anything that will take me away from your presence. Here's a dilemma. I just received an email and this is what it says. Now show your glory.
Yes.
Gary, now I'm putting a demand in heaven. You need to show your glory. They need to know who is God.
Yeah.
And that you don't have deputy gods. You can do it on your own.
I remember,
I remember telling God, literally, I was telling him, Gary, this is the time to show that you are God. And I left it like that. Now, going back, I remember there was a time when I was married. I think it was on our third year when we were trying. I attended a conference. In that conference, there was a man of God who is a prophet. He called me in front and he said, God is going to bless you with a son. He didn't say a child. He said a son, specifically a son.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I went home excited. I told my then husband, we're going to have a son. I was so hopeful, but nothing was happening. Now, when I'm in the situation now, demanding to God, and I said, remember the promise.
Yes, that you made.
Remember the promise.
Yeah.
And immediately I became hopeful again. That God, you're going to do it. I don't know how, but you're going to do it.
It spoke to the faithfulness of God.
It spoke to the faithfulness
of God. The character of God.
Yes.
And that sort of revived in you.
Yes.
It reminded you.
Yes.
That this one that I'm dealing with is not a man. He cannot lie.
He cannot lie.
He cannot say he will do. And then change his mind.
Mama. And I was sitting there and I remember I was so hopeful. Then I started worshiping God. I remember that day I started worshiping God. I started thanking God in advance. I had not met my husband as yet, my current husband. I had not met him as yet. And time passed, and then it happened that we met through a friend, a mutual friend. And yeah, he told me, I remember his words were like, in you, I don't see a girlfriend, I see a wife. I see a person I want to build with. I see the mother of my children. I say, whoa. On that note, I can't. So I'm not gonna even hide it from you. By the way, we might not have children because it seems like I might probably have a problem. I was very open with him about it. He looked at me and said, you are going to have kids.
Wow.
Like he spoke faith, and again I became hopeful at that time. I didn't even say to him, no, you lying. I took his words and I had hope for some reason. And to cut the long story short, I told my parents about him, that there's a guy I met, and all that, and he requested my hand in marriage, and I remember the first person I told, it was my sister. She's the one who knew about our relationship, and he said, this guy wants to marry me, and I was like, the
trauma.
I
don't want to relive it.
I was like, I'm not doing this again.
No.
No.
Not all men are the same. Not all men will do that to you.
Yes.
The one that God has created you from.
Yeah.
Is out there.
Yes.
And this is him.
This is him. And Gary, you know what? Let me give it a try. Let me give it a chance. Let me be hopeful again. And today we have a son. The very promise, not just I love the fact that, that prophet said, God is going to bless you with a son. And I never forget that prophecy. And today,
you held on to the word of God. I held on.
I held on. And I remember the day I found out that I had conceived, when we went to the doctor and we checked, and the doctor said, you have conceived. I couldn't wait to know the gender.
You knew.
In my feeling, because he was like, no, it's going to be a girl. And he was just, being like, hi, it's going to be a girl. Because I was telling him the history back at home that everyone at home firstborns, it's girls, because my mom also has a firstborn Kingwanyan, so I thought he's gonna go in that pattern, but for some reason I was like, no, it's a boy. It's a boy, because I'm holding a promise here, that God promised me. And I remember when we found out the gender, when the doctor said it's a boy, I said, glory. I shouted glory. I said, this is it. This is it. And for me, that was a destiny defining moment.
Yeah.
He's faithful at all times, and he doesn't change his mind, and when the time is right, he will make it. So for me, that experience taught me a lot. Today we have a lot of women who are sitting, in marriages that are being named and labeled.
It's what I want to speak about, the name calling. The labeling.
Yes.
The shaming.
Yes.
What does that do to, one as a woman? Because having a child seems to be so natural.
Yes.
Until you must have a child.
Yes. The name calling, you literally, you feel so belittled. You are like nothing. You feel unworthy. It makes you feel like you're not woman enough.
Yes.
I respect men who stand by their wives, whether we have a child or not. There's a level of respect I have for them, because it says, listen, she might not be able to conceive, or we might not be able to conceive, but this is a person that I love and I choose to build with.
Yes.
Yes. And mind you, this person will say, if my family decides to disown me just because I stand up for my wife, then let it be.
And they do. There are stories where women will tell you that I heard my husband has married a second wife.
Yeah.
The family chose someone for him because I could not conceive.
I could not conceive. Yes. It happens. I know of a woman who is in a position like that, and it's so painful, you know. And to hear her story, her telling me all of that, you like, you know, how many women are going through that, and she's reminded every day when
oh my, you are barren.
You know, how to learn you are not woman, you are not a woman enough. How musadi?
The insensitivity of women, the inability of society to be educated when it comes to compassion, the burden and the pressure we place on women, the accolade we place on motherhood. As society, we need to reform and come to understand that motherhood is not an achievement. There are many women who God has blessed with children who do not have the motherly instinct. There are many women who God has not yet blessed with children, and they would do anything to have a child. In both instances, it's hardly by their own ability, it's hardly by their own control. May you, next time, when you see someone, refrain from asking, when are you having a child? May you be compassionate to the fact that it's not a decision that is within their hands. May you next time respect someone's decision to say, not yet. It's not yet my time to have a child. May you also be compassionate to someone who's saying, I have identified that I'm not the right person to have a child. At the end of the day, children are a blessing from God. Infertility is something that God can cure. May He bless you with that child that you're longing for. Until then, keep your mental health in check. Look at the God who has offered your life. The good Lord bless you. The good Lord keep you. The good Lord shine His face upon you. Let's do this again next week, right here on Healing Conversations with me, Ntabise Ngwepe, DSTV channel 343.
Subscribe to Healing Conversations on YouTube and access fresh content from Healing Conversations, the Table Podcast with Ntabise Ngwepe, available from April 2024. Also visit our online store to get yourself a copy of Ntabise Ngwepe's latest release, Maintaining Your Joy, a channel for daily positive living. The second edition, available now.